Hey there, I'm Farah and I'm 28 years old. Get ready to grab your snacks because this story is one heck of a roller coaster ride. My life has been like a wild whirlwind, full of twists and turns that I never saw coming. And let me tell you, it's been a journey. So buckle up and let's dive straight into the madness. Like I said before, I'm far just a regular girl who'd had her fair share of struggles. You know how some people have parents to guide them through life? Well, I didn't have that luxury. I was an orphan navigating the world on my own and having to fend for myself when I turned 18. As you can imagine, I made a bunch of dumb decisions along the way. But wait, here's where the plot twist comes in. Despite all the chaos and uncertainty, life threw me a bone. I scored a full-ride scholarship to a decent university, can you believe it? I went from feeling like I'd end up on the streets to having this incredible opportunity. I decided to take advantage of this and major in both finance and media, a combination that felt like the ultimate power move, mainly because I didn't know what else to do. Fast forward to my graduation, I was ready to take on the world armed with my dual degrees and a determination like no other. I was on a mission. I felt like I could conquer anything and I was ready to prove it. But as we all know, life loves to throw curveballs. Cue COVID-19, the global pandemic that flipped everyone's plans upside down. Remember that? Suddenly, everything was uncertain and the world was changing at an unprecedented pace. Like so many others, I had to adapt quickly. I knew I had to pivot if I was going to survive this. I began exploring remote job opportunities and diving into the world of online work. Turns out, I had a knack for things like affiliate marketing and content writing. My background in finance and media turned out to be the perfect combo for this digital landscape. And here's where things get even more interesting. As I delved deeper into this online world, I realized I was onto something big. My hard work paid off and I was rising through the ranks as a promising businesswoman. The more I learned, the more I earned. Not just financially, but in terms of confidence and self-belief. All right, folks, we're diving back into the story, and let me tell you, the plot only fiends from here. So I was on this wild ride conquering the online world with my affiliate marketing skills, right? Well, that's when I crossed paths with the guy who would change my life. Allie. At first, things were pretty great between us. We clicked, we laughed, and life felt like an exciting adventure. And here comes the twist. Within a mere 6 months of knowing each other, we decided to take the plunge and get married. Now let me just say, in hindsight, I realized we rushed into things way too quickly. Like, come on, 6 months is barely enough time to know someone's favorite color, let alone the rest of their life story. Don't get me wrong though, despite the whirlwind romance, I appreciate the learning experience. Every decision, good or bad, shapes who we are, right? So yeah, I learned a thing or two about slowing down and really getting to know someone before signing up for a lifetime together. Now let's talk about Allie's reaction to my work. When he first asked what I did, he kind of brushed it off like, "Oh, that's cute, you're dabbling in some online stuff." Little did he know, my little online gig was about to blow up in a major way. I'm talking viral posts, the kind that sends your follower account soaring and your bank account doing the cha-ching. Suddenly, I wasn't just pulling in a few bucks here and there. Nope, I was raking in some serious cash. And guess what? I became wealthier than my own husband. Yeah, you read that right. And here's where the drama ramps up. Allie, bless his ego, wasn't exactly thrilled about the whole situation. Imagine this, a guy who thought my job was some adorable little side hustle was suddenly staring at my skyrocketing bank balance. And well, let's just say he wasn't jumping for joy. I could practically see his pride deflating like a balloon. It was like watching a reality show unfold right in front of me. Then one day he approached me with this BS. "Hey Fard, I've been thinking about your whole online thing. Do you really believe it's a sustainable career?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, don't you think it's time to consider something more stable? It's nice that you're trying this out, but come on. Let's be realistic. You're not really making a significant income from it." "Excuse me, are you saying my work isn't worthwhile?" "I make more money than you. This seemed to tick him off because I swear I almost saw the vein in his forehead burst. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just think it might be better if you focus on something more concrete, like finding a steady job or even just staying home and taking care of things here, like a traditional housewife. Ali, you have no idea how much effort I put into this. I've worked my tail off to build my online presence, to connect with people, and yes, to make money. I've faced challenges, learned new skills, and grown so much in the process. Yeah, sure, but it's not exactly a real job, is it? It's not like you're bringing in a substantial income. And let's face it, it's a bit embarrassing when people ask what you do. Embarrassing? Are you serious? This is my passion, my hard work, and my success we're talking about. I'm proud of what I've achieved, and I'm not about to give it all up just because you don't see the value in it. Look, I just think it's time to be practical. We could use some more stability, especially with everything going on in the world. And if you stay home, you can focus on making our home comfortable and taking care of things here. Ali, I'm not going to put aside my dreams and all the progress I've made just to become a housewife. I deserve to have a fulfilling career that I'm proud of. I deserve to chase my own goals and passions. And if you can't support me in that, then maybe we need to have a serious talk about our future together. We argued for hours and hours, and I was so fed up with him that I left. For some context, after we got married, I moved in with Ali and decided that I would rent out my place for some extra money on the side. But with the way Ali was acting, I was second-guessing staying in the same home as him. So I threatened to leave and go back to my place till he could figure his insecurities out and stop being mad at me for making more money than him. Okay, Farah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for bringing it up. You're right, and I'm wrong. Please forgive me. Don't go, please. Well, I didn't see that coming. It was almost too easy. This is what we call foreshadowing, folks. After Ali promised to support me, I thought things would get better. But nope, that wasn't the end of it. The very next day, I got ambushed. Not by ninjas, but by Ali and my mother-in-law Salma, both ready to give me a piece of their minds. They shouted at me, berating me for not heeding Ali's advice and continuing with my stupid online thing. I was caught off guard, and their words felt like daggers piercing through me. I couldn't hold back the tears. I felt trapped and utterly defeated. I had worked so hard to get here, to build my career and my life, only to have it torn apart by the very people who were supposed to support me. And it didn't stop there. They decided to make my life even more miserable. They loaded me up with household chores and tasks, leaving me with no time or energy to focus on my work. They were seriously determined to sabotage my success and break my spirit. As weeks went by, my revenue started to decline. My once thriving online presence was crumbling, and with it, my confidence and my self-worth. I was living in a nightmare, trapped in a cycle of abuse and manipulation that I couldn't escape. Every day I'd sit in front of my computer trying to salvage what was left of my work. But the weight of their insults and demands was suffocating. I felt like I was drowning, unable to catch my breath, let alone regain control of my career. The worst part? I started believing their insults. Started believing that all I was meant to be was some bright housewife. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I wanted to pack up and leave to go back to my own house and reclaim my independence. But on the other hand, fear held me back. I was scared of the consequences of their anger, of the unknown. I desperately wished things had turned out differently. I wished I could go back to the days when I felt invincible, when I believed I could take on the world. I thought I could handle it, endure whatever they threw at me. But there's a limit to how much anyone can take, and that day, that breaking point, well, it came like a freight train. Ali had pushed me to my limit. He'd been forcing me to cook, not just a meal, but a feast, only to reject it all and make me start all over again. I was cooking from 8 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock p.m., giving me zero time to work on my job. It was like a sick game to him, a way to assert control and keep me on edge. And on that day, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood my ground and told him to stop treating me like a servant, like I was there to cater to his whims. Well, let's just say he didn't take that well. He got angry, angrier than I'd ever seen him before, and then he did something he'd never done before. He hit me. That smack across my face was like a wake-up call. Suddenly, everything became clear. As I fell to the ground, I felt something snap inside me. It was as if I finally realized the extent of the abuse I'd been enduring. I looked up at him, anger and fear coursing through me, and without thinking, I grabbed the nearest object, a knife. I pointed it at him, my hand trembling but my resolve unwavering. For I don't know what came over me. I'm so sorry. Please hear me out. Crap, why did I just do that? His apologies fell on deaf ears. I'd heard the excuses before. I knew that once that line had been crossed, there was no going back. So with a knife in my hand, I told him that I was done, that I couldn't do this anymore. I said I was leaving, and this time for good. With the knife still in my grip, I quickly went upstairs to pack a bag, gathering all of my essentials. And I walked out of that house, fearing to call the cops if he so much as looked at me. He started blubbering and crying as if he was the one who just got assaulted. And that's when I knew that I could never love him, that toxic environment that had suffocated me for far too long. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there. I drove back to my own house, which thankfully wasn't occupied at the time. It was the one place where I could finally breathe, and I wondered why I ever left in the first place. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, realizing the mess I had gotten myself into. I had read enough self-help books to know that once someone crosses that physical line, it's not going to stop, and I wasn't going to wait around to see how much worse it could get. I knew I had to take charge of my life again, to reclaim the strength and independence I had fought so hard for. It was a tough journey ahead, one filled with uncertainty and fear, but at least I was on a path to reclaim my own power and break free from the chains that had bound me for far too long. I sat there in my own home, finally able to face the truth that I had been avoiding for so long. The reality of the abuse I had endured settled in, and I let myself break down. I allowed the tears to come, to wash away some of the pain that had been buried deep within me. Amidst my emotional turmoil, my phone continued to ring incessantly. Each call was from Salma. I had been ignoring her calls, hoping that if I stayed quiet, she would eventually give up, but she was persistent, and eventually I answered, my voice heavy with exhaustion. Salma's voice on the other end sounded different, sad, almost defeated. She pleaded with me to go back to Ali, to sort things out, to mend the broken pieces of our marriage. Her words were like daggers, reminding me of the twisted web of guilt and manipulation that had kept me captive for so long. I scoffed at her words, unable to believe the audacity of it all. Loving conversation overcome anything. If only it were that simple. I told her, without mincing my words, to go to hell along with her son. I made it clear that I was done, that I would never return to that nightmare they called home, and that they should leave me alone. But Salma's tone shifted, her desperation turned into threats, ones that sent shivers down my spine. She told me that if I left, Alec could take my money I had worked so hard to earn. We didn't do a prenup. He could do that. I didn't know what to say, so I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. Fear crept in once again as the realization sank in that this wasn't over. They wouldn't just let me go. I knew deep down that I couldn't stay in that house. I couldn't risk them showing up at my doorstep, forcing me to go back to that hellscape. With a heavy sigh, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let them control me any longer. I had to take control of my own destiny, put my safety and well-being first, and run as fast as I could. And that meant leaving everything behind, the abuse, the manipulation, and yes, even the house. It was a terrifying decision, but it was one I knew I had to make to finally break free from the chains that had held me captive for far too long. I wasted no time in leaving that potential house of horrors. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I packed up what little I could salvage from that place: clothes, shoes, toiletries. I was leaving everything behind, not wanting any remnants of that old life. The house was put up for sale, a chapter I was desperate to close. With the help of a few supportive friends, I managed to find a buyer within a week. The relief was palpable. Not only would I finally have some financial independence, but I could sever that last thread tying me to my abusers. It was a fresh start I so desperately needed. I chose to move to a smaller town, one far away from the memories and pain of my past. A town with just 33,000 people, a place where I could disappear in the anonymity of a smaller community. The peace and quiet were exactly what I craved, a chance to heal and gather my strength for the battles ahead. Blocking Ali and Salma on all fronts, I tried to create a distance between us, but the fear of them finding me lingered like a shadow. Despite that, I settled into my new life, working on rebuilding my online business and reclaiming my sense of self. Months went by, and I started feeling a sense of security in my newfound surroundings. And then, like a bad dream, Ali reappeared. He created new social media accounts, attempting to contact me. The messages were a mix of anger, desperation, and manipulation, telling me to stop being ridiculous and to come back home. I was vigilant, blocking every new account he created. Despite the looming threat, I slowly started getting back on track. My online business began to flourish once again, giving me a glimmer of hope that I could regain control of my life. With each successful step, my confidence grew, and I realized that even though I had been through hell, I was strong enough to overcome it. As I carefully guarded my whereabouts and built a shield of anonymity around myself, I began to feel a sense of empowerment. I was creating a life on my own terms, away from the toxic influences that had held me back for so long. I also needed this time to think strategically about how I could divorce Ali and keep all my money. I was thinking of a postnuptial agreement, but I doubted he would accept that, considering he wants me cornered and desperate. Ali upped the ante when it came to contacting me because he would make a new account every single day, trying to contact me. Of course, I ignored his growing threats and excessive pleas. But one day he said something that gave me shivers. "It's been months now, Farah. Why are you still hiding? You don't think I won't find you? I swear to God, if you don't come home this instant, I'll burn your house to the ground." I couldn't believe it when I received that threatening DM from Ali. His audacity to think he could still control me after all this time was infuriating. But I wasn't about to cave in. Instead, I blocked him as I had done before and refused to engage. And then silence. No more new accounts, no more messages, no more threats. It seemed like he finally got the message that I wasn't going to be his victim anymore. But a week later, I received a message from a friend back in my old town. It was a shocking photo. A mugshot of Ali and Salma, both caught in the act of committing arson on what used to be my house. I quickly did my Googles and found that they were indeed arrested for arson, with Salma stupidly revealing that they thought there was someone else in the house, and had they known, they wouldn't have done it. So now they're also being booked for conspiracy to commit murder. What idiots! The twist was surreal. They had actually tried to burn down that house. The new owner had managed to catch them in the act, stopping the fire before it could consume the place. The sheer audacity of their actions left me stunned, yet I couldn't help but feel a mixture of emotions: shock, anger, relief. Knowing that they were now behind bars awaiting trial brought a sense of vindication. They wouldn't be able to escape the consequences of their actions this time. With their hearings pushed far into the future, they were stuck in a stinky, crappy jail cell, unable to continue their torment of me. It was a strange mix of emotions. Part of me still felt the fear of their potential threat, but a bigger part of me was relieved that they were finally facing justice. Right now, I'm working with a lawyer to ensure that I am protected when I divorce that scumbag. Wish me luck, you all. And if you have any advice on how I can sever the ties with that family fully, please let me know.